I only said yes because I owed him. That's what I told myself. Jake and I weren't close. More like two friends of friends who kept ending up at the same parties, the same hangouts, the same cramped couches after everyone else had passed out. He was always the loud one, the one telling some dumb story or getting way too into charades. And I was not. I was the one sitting on the armrest, sipping a flat beer and planning my exit. But that night, I owed him. My car had broken down 3 weeks earlier, and Jake had shown up with jumper cables, gas, and the kind of stubborn optimism that only came from a guy who thought any problem could be fixed with elbow grease and a Bluetooth speaker blasting Red Hot Chili Peppers. So when he messaged me late one Friday, "Hey, I got locked out. Any chance I can crash at your place?" I didn't hesitate. I lived in a tiny studio with barely enough room for one person, let alone two. But I texted back, "Yeah, come through," tossed some laundry off the futon, and hoped he'd just pass out fast. He showed up in joggers and a soaked hoodie, clutching a pizza box like it was a peace offering. "You're a lifesaver," he said, stepping inside. His hair was damp, his sneakers squished against my hardwood, and I was suddenly very aware of how small the room felt. "It's fine," I said. "Futon's yours." He handed me the pizza box. "It's half pineapple. I know you're weird about toppings." That surprised me. "You remember that?" Jake grinned and shrugged. "You rant about it enough." We ate in silence, sitting on the floor with our backs against the bed. At one point, our knees bumped, and neither of us moved. I only said yes because I owed him. That's what I told myself. Jake and I weren't close. More like two friends of friends who kept ending up at the same parties, the same hangouts, the same cramped couches after everyone else had passed out. He was always the loud one, the one telling some dumb story or getting way too into charades, and I was not. I was the one sitting on the armrest, sipping a flat beer and planning my exit. But that night, I owed him. My car had broken down 3 weeks earlier, and Jake had shown up with jumper cables, gas, and the kind of stubborn optimism that only came from a guy who thought any problem could be fixed with elbow grease and a Bluetooth speaker blasting Red Hot Chili Peppers. So when he messaged me late one Friday, "Hey, I got locked out. Any chance I can crash at your place?" I didn't hesitate. I lived in a tiny studio with barely enough room for one person, let alone two. But I texted back, "Yeah, come through," tossed some laundry off the futon, and hoped he'd just pass out fast. He showed up 20 minutes later, in joggers and a soaked hoodie, clutching a pizza box like it was a peace offering. His hair was damp, his cheeks a little flushed from the wind, and he looked like he hadn't planned to be out in the cold for long. "You're a lifesaver," he said, stepping inside and shaking out his hoodie. His sneakers left little puddles on the floor. I handed him a towel and tried not to flinch when he peeled off the hoodie, revealing a thin white t-shirt that clung a little too well to his chest. "It's fine," I said, nodding toward the futon. "Futon's yours." He handed me the pizza box. "It's half pineapple. I know you're weird about toppings." That surprised me. "You remember that?" Jake grinned and shrugged. "You rant about it enough." We ate in silence, sitting on the floor with our backs against the bed. At one point, our knees bumped, and neither of us moved. "So what happened?" I asked, finally, nodding toward his phone where the conversation had started. "Locked myself out," he said. "Roommate's out of town, landlord's not picking up. Thought about sleeping in my car, but..." He glanced at me. "I remembered you lived nearby." I chewed slowly, unsure what to make of that. "Lucky for you, I didn't have plans." "You never have plans," he teased, nudging me with his elbow. I snorted. "Touché." For a while, the room settled into a comfortable quiet. The city hummed faintly outside the window. Horns, laughter, the occasional siren. But inside, it was warm and dim. Jake leaned his head back against the wall and closed his eyes. "Man, you ever think about how weird it is we all drift?" he asked, voice soft. "What do you mean?" "Like everyone we used to see every weekend. People just disappear. Move, couple up, whatever. And then you're left with, like, one or two people who still show up. You talking about yourself?" I asked. He chuckled, but there was something almost tired in it. "Nah, just thinking." I watched him for a moment, his jawline relaxed. the way his chest rose and fell under that thin shirt. I looked away before he opened his eyes again. "You always this quiet?" he asked, turning to face me a little more. "Only around people who talk too much." Jake laughed, the sound low and real. "Fair." He shifted, stretching his legs out, and I felt his knee brush mine again. This time longer. Again, neither of us moved. I was very aware of how close we were, of how the rest of the room had fallen away. Then he said it. "You ever wonder what would happen if we didn't just laugh this stuff off?" I turned toward him, heart in my throat. "What stuff?" He held my gaze for a second too long. "Never mind." But it was already out there, hanging between us like heat. After Jake said, "Never mind," I should have let it drop. That's what normal people do when their maybe straight, maybe drunk friend lets something weird slip and backpedals. They move on, they change the subject. I didn't. Instead, I just stared at him for a second, like maybe if I looked long enough, I'd figure out what the hell he meant. But Jake had already leaned back again, eyes on the ceiling like he hadn't just cracked open a door I wasn't sure either of us wanted to walk through. "Do you want the bed?" I asked finally. Stupidly. Avoidance 101. He raised an eyebrow. "Nah, I'm good with the futon. Don't want to mess up your routine or whatever." I shrugged. "It's not a routine. I don't usually have company." He smirked. "So I'm special, huh?" And there it was again, that edge in his voice, like he was testing me. I didn't know how to read him. Jake had always been the kind of guy who flirted with everyone. Bartenders, Lyft drivers, even that one security guard outside our friend Mason's apartment. It never meant anything. But this felt different. "Don't get a big head," I muttered, reaching for the last slice of pizza before he could. Jake yawned and stood, stretching. His shirt lifted again, and this time, I didn't look away fast enough. He caught me. He didn't say anything, didn't smirk or call me out. He just lowered his arms slowly and walked to the futon. I expected the air to shift, the tension to snap back into place like a rubber band. But it didn't. Instead, he sat down, pulled off his socks, and lay back like he'd done this 1,000 times before. "You got a spare blanket?" he asked, already adjusting the pillow. I nodded, digging one out from the closet. When I handed it to him, our fingers brushed, and I felt that same charge from earlier. Brief, sharp, undeniable. "Thanks, man," he said, and this time, his voice was low, almost too soft. I turned off the light and crawled into bed. The room was suddenly so quiet I could hear the building creak, the distant buzz of someone's TV on the floor above, and I could hear him breathing. Slow, even, awake. I rolled onto my side, facing the wall. I told myself not to overthink it. It was just Jake being Jake. This didn't mean anything. But then I heard the futon creak, felt the faint vibration of footsteps. My heart stuttered. "Hey," he whispered. I turned over, and he was standing by my bed, blanket in hand. "This thing's lumpy as hell. Mind if I?" He didn't finish the question. He didn't have to. I just scooted over. He slid in beside me like it was no big deal, like we were crashing after a party again, and this was normal. I stayed on my side, barely breathing. Every nerve in my body lit up. "You always this tense," he murmured, so close I could feel his breath on the back of my neck. "Only when guys crawl into bed with me without asking." He chuckled. "Fair." He didn't touch me. Not at first. We just lay there in the dark, both pretending to sleep. But his breathing didn't sound sleepy. Neither did mine. Eventually, I felt it. His hand brushing against mine, just a whisper of contact. And then he left it there, not moving, just letting it rest between us. I didn't pull away. It was the smallest thing, his pinky brushing mine. But it felt like lightning, like something ancient and electric and so quiet you might miss it if you weren't holding your breath like I was. Jake didn't say anything. He didn't look at me. He just let his hand sit there, barely touching mine, not pushing further. He gave me the space to move if I wanted to. But I didn't. I could have shifted away. Could have said something sarcastic to break the tension, roll over and pretend to snore. That's what I would have done with anyone else. But I didn't want the moment to end, and that scared the hell out of me. After a few minutes, I turned slightly, just enough to glance back and catch him watching me. His eyes weren't teasing this time. They were serious, uncertain, like he was waiting for a sign. "You okay?" I asked quietly. Jake nodded. "Yeah." "You sure?" He hesitated. "I don't know." The blanket shifted as he moved, closer this time. His knees lightly bumped the back of mine, and I felt his chest draw in a slow breath, steady but nervous. "I don't usually do this," he said. "Stay the night, I mean. Like this." I could hear what he wasn't saying. The way his voice dipped, the way the silence after that sentence felt full of something raw and waiting. "Me neither," I admitted. Jake's hand moved, his fingers grazing my wrist. This time, when they found my hand again, he actually laced his fingers through mine. Just like that. It should have felt strange. It should have set off alarms, confused me, made me pull away. But it didn't. It felt right. "I've been thinking about it," he whispered, so low I almost didn't catch it. "Thinking about what?" "This. You." My breath caught. I rolled onto my back, needing to see him, and he mirrored the movement. Our faces were inches apart, barely outlined in the low light from the street lamp outside the window. "I thought you were straight," I said, immediately regretting how it sounded. He gave a half smile. "Yeah, me too." That sentence hung between us like a challenge, or a confession. I stared at him, trying to make sense of this version of Jake, the version who showed up at my door with pizza and vulnerability, who wasn't trying to be the funniest guy in the room, who wasn't playing it cool. He looked down at our hands, still tangled between us. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said, "but I know I didn't want to sleep in my car tonight. You could have gone to literally anyone else's place." He nodded. "Yeah, I could have." We were quiet again, a heavier kind of quiet this time. It felt like the moment right before something either snaps or shatters. Jake's thumb moved, stroking the inside of my wrist slowly. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah, would it be weird if I kissed you?" I froze, not because I didn't want it, but because no one had ever asked me like that before. "No," I said, and then he leaned in, and everything tilted. The kiss wasn't perfect. It wasn't smooth or slow motion like in a movie. Jake moved in a little too fast, our noses bumped awkwardly, and for a second we both froze like we'd screwed it up. But then we both laughed. Soft, nervous, and tried again. And this time, it clicked. His lips were warm, tentative at first, like he was waiting to see if I'd change my mind. I didn't. If anything, I leaned in more, deepening it just enough to feel the weight behind it, the intent. And the moment he relaxed into it, I swear something shifted in my chest. I don't know how long we stayed like that, kissing, pausing, then kissing again. It wasn't rushed. There was no goal beyond the fact that we were there, that it was real, and that neither of us was pretending anymore. When we finally pulled apart, Jake didn't say anything right away. He just looked at me, a crease between his brows like he was trying to figure something out. "What?" I asked, suddenly self-conscious. He shook his head slowly. I didn't think this would feel so easy." "It's not supposed to be hard," I said, half smiling. He laughed under his breath. "Yeah, but it's me. I make everything hard." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" He groaned and flopped onto his back, throwing a pillow at my face. "Don't make this weird." "You started it." We lay there in the dark for a while, side by side, no more than an inch between us. I wanted to reach for him again, but I didn't. I let the silence settle, let it wrap around us like the blanket we shared. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "I used to think about this." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Jake rolled onto his side, facing me again. "Us. I don't know. It was always just a what if. I'd catch myself thinking about you after parties, or when we'd run into each other. But I never thought it would actually happen. Why not? Because I've always been the guy who jokes about everything. The guy who makes it easy for people to like him without really giving anything back. And you... He hesitated, his voice going quiet. You see through that shit. You always have. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. I just reached for his hand again, lacing our fingers like before. Jake looked down at our hands, then up at me. I'm scared shitless. Of what? Of liking this too much. The room felt still, like the air had thickened with the weight of those words. Then maybe don't think about it so much, I said. Just be here, with me. He nodded, not eagerly, not like a movie star making a grand romantic gesture. Just a small, quiet nod, like he was giving himself permission. Okay, he said. Yeah, I can do that. And that's how we fell asleep. Our hands still joined, the space between us gone. I woke up to the sound of Jake snoring softly. His arm had ended up draped across my waist sometime during the night, and his forehead was pressed lightly against my shoulder. I stayed still for a moment, not wanting to move, not wanting to wake him, or maybe not wanting to wake whatever spell we'd fallen under. The room was dim, morning light barely filtering through the curtains, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel that usual heaviness in my chest. Just calm warmth. Him. Eventually, Jake stirred, breath hitching a little as he blinked awake. His hand flexed where it rested on my side, and then he froze, realizing exactly where he was. Shit, he mumbled. You're fine, I said quickly, turning to face him. He looked at me like he was trying to measure whether I was being real or just polite. I didn't mean to, wrap around you like a damn koala. I laughed. You're a cuddler. Who knew? Jake groaned and flopped onto his back, rubbing his face. This is so weird. I propped myself up on an elbow. Do you regret it? His hand dropped from his face. No. That's what's messing with me. We were quiet for a second. Not uncomfortable. Just processing. You hungry? I asked, needing something solid to steer the morning back to earth. He nodded. Starving. We moved through the kitchen like two guys who hadn't made out the night before. Jake found the eggs, I made coffee, and for a while, it almost felt normal again, like any other morning after a party. But the difference was in the details, the way he kept glancing at me when he thought I wasn't looking, the way our shoulders brushed and neither of us stepped back. He sat on the edge of the counter, cradling his mug, watching me butter toast. So, what now? What do you mean? I mean, last night happened, and now it's today, and I don't know if I should apologize or ask you out or what. I turned, toast in hand. You think you need to apologize? No, he said slowly, but I'm also not the guy who knows how to do this right. You don't need to do it right. Just be honest. He nodded, setting his mug down. All right, honesty? I liked last night. More than I expected to, more than I probably should have. You think there's a should when it comes to liking someone? Jake hopped off the counter, stepping closer. I think I've been bullshitting myself for a long time. He looked down at the floor for a second, then back up. So, can we try this? Not just the crashing at your place part. The more than that part. I felt my chest tighten. Not from anxiety, but something quieter. Relief. Hope. Yeah, I said. We can try. Jake smiled. Not the loud party one, not the cocky one, just a real, quiet one. I guess that makes this the most successful couch crash in history. I laughed. Let's see how breakfast goes first. After that morning, things didn't go back to how they were. They didn't exactly turn into some sweeping romance either. There were no candlelit dinners or dramatic declarations. But it changed, quietly. Jake started staying over more, not always in my bed. Sometimes just crashing on the futon again after late nights or long shifts. But he'd sit closer on the couch, linger in doorways a little longer, make me laugh when I was wound up from work. He'd brush my arm when he passed. or nudged my knee under the table when we ate. Casual things, but not casual. It was the kind of closeness that didn't need a name right away, but it meant something. A week after that first night, we were lying on my bed, sharing earbuds and watching some dumb nature documentary. Jake had a weird obsession with crocodiles, and out of nowhere, he turned to me and said, "You don't have to wait on me." I pulled one earbud out. "What?" "You don't have to wait for me to figure this all out," he said, staring at the ceiling. "I know I'm slow. With this." I turned toward him, unsure where this was coming from. "Jake. I mean it. You could have anyone. Someone who already knows what they want." I sat up a little. "Yeah, but I want you." He blinked up at me. "Why?" I didn't have some poetic, perfect answer. Just the truth. Because with you, even the quiet feels full. And I don't have to try so hard to be understood. Jake looked like he didn't know what to do with that. His mouth opened, closed again. Then he sat up too, and kissed me without saying anything else. He didn't need to. That night, we didn't do anything more than kiss and hold on to each other. But it felt different, intentional, like he wasn't just reacting anymore, like he was choosing this. And for the first time since it started, I let myself believe maybe it wasn't just a phase. Maybe it wasn't just one of those weird, beautiful things that burns out fast. Maybe this could actually last. 2 weeks after that night, Jake asked me to meet him at a park. Not our park, or any place sentimental. Just a regular one near his place, with worn-out tennis courts and squeaky swings, and a field where people let their dogs run free. He texted me to come by after work. No context. When I got there, he was already sitting on one of the benches, staring out at the field like he'd been there for a while. Something about the way he was hunched forward, hands clasped between his knees, told me this wasn't going to be small talk. I sat next to him without saying anything. After a long beat, he said, "My dad's coming into town this weekend." I nodded slowly, not sure where this was going. He wants to grab lunch, meet some of my friends. I stayed quiet. Jake rubbed his hands together. "I want to bring you." That surprised me. "You sure?" He nodded. "Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna, introduce you as my boyfriend or anything." I chuckled. "Relax. I wasn't gonna print business cards." He looked over at me, a little sheepish. I want you there. That's all." It hit me then, how big that was for him. Jake had always been about avoiding hard questions with jokes. The fact that he was even willing to bring me into that space, family, history, expectations, that meant something. "Okay," I said, "I'll be there." He exhaled, almost like he'd been holding his breath the whole time. That weekend, I met his dad. And yeah, it was awkward at first. His dad was polite, but clearly clocking everything. Our shared glances, the way Jake kept looking to me before answering certain questions. But by the end of the meal, something shifted. We were sitting outside the cafe, sun dipping low, and Jake's dad asked him if he was happy. Jake looked at me, then back at him and said, "Yeah, I really am." It was so simple. No speech, no labels, just honest. Later, when we were walking back to the car, I asked him if he was okay. Jake just nodded, sliding his hand into mine as we walked. That night, back at my place, we didn't say much. We curled up on the couch, half watching a movie, the kind of silence that only comes when two people really see each other. He rested his head on my shoulder and whispered, "Thanks for waiting." And I just said, "Always." It didn't change overnight. That's not how real things work. Jake still made dumb jokes when he got nervous. He still played things off when he wasn't ready to talk about them. But there was something different in the way he held me now. In public, in private, in all the in-between places where people normally hide. He stopped hiding. One night, about a month after he stayed over for the first time, we were at a bar with some friends. It was loud, packed, nothing special. But at one point, I turned to grab my drink, and when I looked back, he was watching me. Really watching me. And when I raised an eyebrow, he didn't look away. He just leaned in and kissed me. Right there. No hesitation. No jokes. It was the first time he'd done that outside our little bubble. It hit harder than I expected. Afterward, on the walk home, I asked him why. He shrugged, stuffing his hands in his pockets. Because I wanted to, and because I figured it was time. I nudged him. You always do things on Jake time, he laughed. Yeah, but you're the first person who ever made me want to speed it up. That stuck with me. Months passed, and we fell into something that felt like rhythm. I wouldn't call it a routine. Jake wasn't built for routines, but it was something steady. On Sunday mornings, he'd make pancakes, always burning at least one. We'd fight over what to watch at night, and I always lost. He'd leave his stuff everywhere. But when I got sick, he stayed up all night changing cold compresses without saying a word. We still had our weird moments. He'd get quiet sometimes, unsure of how to name what we were. I didn't push. I didn't need to, because I already knew. One night, after one too many beers on the roof, we ended up lying side by side, watching planes arc over the city. Jake said, I used to think love was something that made you give yourself up, like disappear into someone. I didn't respond. I just waited. But with you, he said, turning to look at me, I feel more like myself than I ever did before. It wasn't some movie line. It wasn't polished. But it was him. And that was all I needed.